Hi guys. Hello. Hello, can you hear me? Mic testing.
Yes, Gokul, now can hear you, but there was no voice. This is Naim Al-Qasir.
Perfect. We can hear you and everything is going good. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So, mic.
It's not this one?
Okay, this.
I don't know.
Please take a seat.
Okay.
Oops.
Jefferson just joined.
Let me see. Let me see. Yes. Okay. Let me push in. Let's do it. Yeah. It's not. Is that good? Little bit more. Perfect. Project. We can move a little more, a little bit more.
Good.
Sorry. Then the camera will not be there. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Now she's out. Fix her.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, I think we can start the session, everyone. So we just start the recording of the meeting. Perfect.
Can you just confirm that you hear us from the room? Dear speakers, dear participants, please let us know in the chat if you cannot hear us for some reason. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining today's event. I have the pleasure to be moderating today's event. And I would like to welcome everyone in the room and online for joining this important event along the SB64 titled Traditional Medicine Under Climate Threat. Traditional medicine, complementary medicine, and integrative health approaches contribute to health and well-being of billions of people worldwide, reflecting diverse pathways to understanding health and healing. Although they differ in practice and philosophy, many share a common recognition that human health is deeply interconnected with the health of the natural world. This connection is particularly evident in the reliance of many healing traditions on biodiversity, health ecosystems, and traditional ecological knowledge. Medicinal plants, fungi, and other natural resources form the foundation of countless therapies and remedies, both in conventional and traditional medicine, while indigenous peoples and local communities have developed and safeguarded knowledge about their use over generations. These knowledge systems are important contributions to health, to resilience, and sustainable stewardship of the environment. However, today these interconnected systems face a growing challenge, and I think we all know what that is. Climate change, biodiversity loss, ecosystem degradation, pollution, and unsustainable land use are altering the landscapes of ecosystems upon which many traditional natural health practices depend. Changes in the temperature and rainfall patterns, increasing frequency of extreme weather events, and the loss of habitats are affecting the availability, the quality, and distribution of medicinal species around the world. At the same time, the erosion of biodiversity threatens not only biological resources, but also the cultural knowledge and practices associated with them all around the world. These environmental pressures have significant implications for our health and for the health of our planet. For many communities, particularly indigenous peoples and rural populations, traditional medicine remains an essential component of healthcare and well-being. As an access to medicinal resources becomes more uncertain, so too does the resilience of health system and cultural tradition that depend on them. The challenges facing biodiversity and ecosystems are issues of health equity, cultural continuity, and community resilience, not just an environmental concern. Traditional, complementary, and integrative medicine offer a valuable perspective for addressing the interconnected challenges of climate change and human health. Many of these approaches emphasize prevention, balance, stewardship, understanding of human well-being that cannot be separated from the well-being of our natural environment. These principles align closely with emerging concepts such as planetary health and One Health, which recognize the interdependence of human, animal, and ecosystem health. As we consider these pathways forward for a more sustainable and resilient future, there is an opportunity to strengthen collaboration across health, environmental, and policy sectors, protecting biodiversity, supporting Indigenous leadership and stewardship, safeguarding traditional knowledge, and fostering respectful and equitable partnerships that can help ensure that these valuable health traditions continue to thrive in the face of climate change. By bringing traditional medicine, complementary and integrative medicine, biodiversity convention, and climate action into the same conversation, we can explore more holistic approaches to well-being, approaches that recognize the health of people and the health of planet that are fundamentally intertwined. And today we have the privilege to hear from experts, both online and here from the room, representing traditional medicine in the Indigenous communities, global health institutions, climate policy, biodiversity conservation, youth leadership, and One Health approaches. Together, they bring perspectives that are often discussed separately, but are increasingly interconnected as the impacts of climate change continue to grow. I have given this introduction to also set the scene for our discussion today, which will be a panel discussion with 7 experts who are partially online. 4 of them are online, and 2 of them are in the room. I didn't do the math right, so there will be panelists online, and 2 of them are joining from the room. I would like to open now the floor for a discussion and invite your reflections on how we can work together to strengthen these different areas of health, biodiversity, and climate resilience. Before moving forward to the panel questions, we will have around, let's say, 40 minutes for that because we experienced some delay. I would like to thank also and introduce the hosts of this event. The first one is the Govardhan Project and the Global Indigenous and Traditional Medicine Alliance, GITMA, as an organizer. Also the hosts, which are Slick and Trust and the Stage Gallery, for physically allowing us to be here in the room. And also our collaborators, organizational collaborators, the Indigenous Women and Peoples Association of Chad, Bumi Health Catalyst Indonesia, the Traditional Complementary and Integrative Healthcare Coalition, the UNFCCC Youth Caucus, who will contribute with the video contribution as well, and the Mentoring Research Network. And from here, we will now move to our speakers, who will be asked one question, and then moving to the next panelist, we will round up with some thoughtful questions also at the end to close our discussions. I would like to give a brief introduction of our speakers today. So the first speaker will be Christina Romanelli, who is the focal point for biodiversity, climate change, and health at the World Health Organization headquarters. Then we have Gokul Rajendran, who is the founder and CEO of the Govardhan Project and founder of the Global Indigenous and Traditional Medicine Alliance, who is here in the room today with us in Bonn, Germany. Then Naima Alcacer, who is Dr. Naima Alcacer, who is a global health diplomat and former World Health Organization representative. Then we have Ms. Manu Ashutu, Secretary General for the African Indigenous Women Organization, Central African Network. Then we have online again Mona El-Sherbini, who is the Associate Professor of Medical Parasitology at the Cairo University and founder of the I'm just getting the right title, the Mentoring Research Network, exactly. And then we also have Mr. Jefferson Nyandibu, President of the National Waste Management Association of Liberia and former UNFCCC National Focal Point for Liberia. As you see, we have diverse expertise here in the room to engage in this discussion and to really walk us through how these different professional and different experts can collaborate together to bring us forward in the discussions around traditional medicine and climate threat. And with that, I would like to first ask my first question to Ms. Cristina Romanelli. The question to you is, what can traditional medicine teach us about the interconnected nature of biodiversity loss, climate change, and human health? And each of the speakers will respond in about 5 minutes, and then we will move to the next speaker.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the hosts for the kind invitation and for bringing us all together in this really important discussion in the climate space. It's such a pleasure to join you from WHO's Department of Environment, Climate Change, One Health and Migration, where I serve as WHO's focal point on biodiversity and health, and with the WHO Global Traditional Medicine Center, where I work on issues related to biodiversity, Indigenous peoples, and traditional knowledge systems. So today's discussions really bring together so many of the issues I've had the privilege to work on and care deeply about for many years. So jumping right into it, I'd say that traditional medicine is often discussed as a standalone health issue. But it's also a biodiversity issue, a climate issue, and for so many communities, a cultural survival issue as well. You know, today, billions of people rely on traditional medicine for some aspect of their health and well-being. In the WHO African region alone, it's estimated that between 70 and 80% of the population has used traditional medicine as a primary source of healthcare. And in some communities, that percentage can even exceed 90%. And at the same time, an estimated 50 to 80,000 plant species are used medicinally globally, with around, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's about 15,000 that are already considered threatened with extinction. So, as climate change, biodiversity loss, land degradation, and pollution accelerate, the very ecosystems that underpin these health systems are also increasingly at risk. From a WHO perspective, climate change affects health through multiple pathways. It's a fundamental determinant of health. And one of those pathways is actually through nature. Changes in temperature, rainfall patterns, extreme weather events, ecosystem degradation, species distributions can affect the availability, the quality, the safety, the efficacy of medicinal sources. And communities around the world are already reporting shifts in harvesting seasons and changes in species abundance and the loss of locally important medicinal species. So climate change isn't only affecting crops, forests, and water systems, it's also affecting the biological resources that underpin health. So when medicinal species disappear, communities lose more than just biodiversity. They can lose access to locally available, culturally appropriate, and affordable healthcare. Just last week, I had the opportunity to participate in the discussions under the UNFCCC's Facilitative Working Group of the Local Communities and Indigenous Peoples Platform. And one of the messages that resonated strongly throughout those discussions was that while international institutions often organize themselves around separate issues, climate, biodiversity, health, food, water, land, Indigenous knowledge systems don't. They understand these as connected dimensions of a single living system. You know, the world's approximately, I think, 475 million Indigenous people speaks thousand of languages and steward an extraordinary diversity of knowledge systems, many of which underpin those very food systems, medicinal practices, biodiversity conservation, and climate resilience. But despite contributing least to those drivers of climate change, of biodiversity loss that also affect the medicinal plants that they use, they're often the most affected by those consequences. So, as we consider the future of traditional medicine and biodiversity that's used for medicinal purposes, that perspective is especially important. These challenges are interconnected, and increasingly, the solutions have to be as well. Indigenous peoples in particular have long observed environmental change and developed place-based knowledge that can contribute to resilience, to ecosystem stewardship, to sustainable resource management and adaptation strategy. But importantly, this knowledge shouldn't simply be documented. It has to be respected, protected, and engaged with through rights-based and equitable approaches. So one example of how we're doing this at WHO is through the development of a WHO framework for respectful engagement with Indigenous peoples on biodiversity, health, and traditional knowledge systems. It's being developed through extensive consultations across all 7 Indigenous sociocultural regions and was actually welcomed by the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues just last April. And that framework recognizes that effective responses to interconnected challenges such as climate change, biodiversity loss, and health inequities really require those respectful partnerships that uphold rights, that support self-determinations, that protect traditional knowledge systems, and enable meaningful participation in decision-making. So I think that looking ahead, there are really important opportunities for collaboration. First, we need stronger evidence and monitoring of climate impacts on medicinal biodiversity and traditional medicine systems. Second, I'd say we need more integrated approaches, such as One Health or planetary health, as you mentioned in the opening. Third, we need to support conservation, sustainable management, and sustainable use of biodiversity, recognizing that healthy ecosystems are absolutely foundational to health and resilience. And finally, and very importantly, we need to ensure that Indigenous peoples are equal partners in shaping climate and biodiversity solutions as rights holders, not just stakeholders to be consulted. So if there's one message only I would leave you with today, it's that the health of people, ecosystems, and the knowledge systems that connect them can't be addressed in isolation. If we're serious about addressing those interconnected challenges that we're looking at here, whether it be climate change or biodiversity loss and the numerous global health challenges we face, we absolutely have to meaningfully support and learn from those who are often the most affected by their consequences and who have stewarded lands, waters, ecosystems, and medicinal resources sustainably for generations. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, so much for this very comprehensive overview. And I really liked how you really weaved in the general perspective, what is the outlook and what resonated with you personally, but then also draw us into a message and the conclusion for a look ahead. And I really do take your stance on how Indigenous peoples that are most affected should be most listened to. I think that's such an important message. With that, I would like to now move into the physical room and address the second question to Gokul, which will be on the conventions and the regulation and policy discussions around these issues. So, Gokul, how do you see traditional medicine? It often sits at the intersection of climate, biodiversity, and health. And how do you see that this discussion fits within the Rio Convention framework? The UNFCCC, the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. What is your stance on that as a youth?
I think
Representative?
Christina has told a lot about that. Thank you so much for the session. Thank you so much, Slack and Trust, for this and thank you so much for giving me the floor. So I think Christina has told a lot about what is happening right now. So I don't think I need to say more about that, but still, from a perspective of youth, I would like to add in more, which is because really important for a youth side to be heard for traditional medicine, which is been lacking even in the WHO space. Like for traditional medicine, that we are not able to see any youth being represented. So I was there at the World Health Assembly 79 recently, and the youth representation for traditional medicine is really low. Even the research for the traditional medicine is like 1% of the global. So that is something we need to increase as a youth, I think so. And also youth sees much more than what the experts can see, because youth is on the ground and they has been seeing this being the first people to be affected as well, because of we are not able to find traditional knowledge basis, or even if as a doctor in traditional medicine, when I use traditional medicine, so because of various factors from the UNFCCC space, maybe mostly the climate change, it is affecting our traditional medicine, which is causing the impact of the effect of the traditional medicine to be low, or the availability of medicines be not found from the CBD side, and also for the land degradation. I think it's for the land to be restored actually properly, we need to have the medicinal plants here in the ecosystem. So that is medicinal plant acts as a clinics for the biodiversity to survive. So these are some of the key things that I see we need to start implementing within the Rio Convention, to nexusing this together, because as a youth, I can see what is the situation on ground. There is the lack of capacity building. Where should we start? Which ministry should I reach out to? Who is taking care for us? It's for us, we have in India, we have two ministries, health and Ayush ministry for the traditional medicine. When I go to Cameroon, I was asking the minister, where should I go for the traditional medicine? So the health minister told me they don't have anything on health in the traditional medicine in the health ministry. You need to go to the environment ministry, because environment ministry take care of medicinal plants. And it differs according to different regions. And also when it goes to other countries like Australia, or countries more developed, they don't have a traditional medicine, but they have indigenous medicine, which is mostly similar to traditional medicine. There is a lot of confusion happening within this space itself, which we need to have a framework and also addressed, because everything is similar. I was talking to Manu here when I was coming here, that the traditional medicine is similar to indigenous medicine, but the people are doesn't know about that too much, the similarity, because it's countries apart, different countries, and the indigenous people are not too much on speaking about that, because as Christina told, it is considered as a single knowledge piece, so it's interconnected. So that is something I would like to mention. And then okay, so we're also one of the key people who can support in the trust building process. So more than the experts going out and reaching out to the in indigenous communities, then it will take a lot more time for the trust to be built. It's for youth, it will be better and faster for them to engage with them, and also get to know and implement new systems and know what is happening on ground, and they are the most affected people, so that the latest information can be taken out from the communities and the hearts of the people. That's it from my side, I think so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think you pointed to a very important thing. If I have to draw on one key word from you, as collaboration. I think you mentioned that it is an institutional task. It is a task of the communities, but it is also the task of those that can help and that can connect these institutions and the local communities. And so for me, I have had the chance to collaborate with Gokul recently on a youth leadership event along the World Health Assembly. And I think the message that came out of that was really that there is a youth that wants to do something that will be affected and is affected already by climate change, by effects of biodiversity loss and all the issues that we are just now seeing and realizing the impact of. And to do that, I think it's really paramount that we listen to each other in this collaboration.
So traditional medicine is like a bridging factor between all these conventions as well. It has a value and it bridges together.
Thank you. And with that, we will now move back online to Dr. Naima Alcacer, who is a global health diplomat and the former World Health Organization representative. And I have the following question to you. Having worked closely with health and climate processes, why do you think traditional medicine is an important discussion within the UNFCCC context?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be with you today, and thanks for the organizers for inviting me. The question that I understand, why do I believe it's important for traditional medicine to be discussed? I've already shared in a couple of previous sessions that no longer we can afford to avoid what is traditional medicine is about. It is not romanticized, it is not to be marginalized, and it should be respected. Already in the outset you mentioned, at the same time Christina, my friend and colleague, also emphasized, should be researched, regulated, and responsibly integrated into climate resilience health system. Now, I wanted to start with this because already it was reflected with the two previous speakers. And when it comes, why at the UNFCCC for United Nations Framework Conventions for Climate Change have already been discussing the indigenous. The first time I saw a large number of indigenous people around promoting and advocating was in COP27. Now, I come from a background that I do believe in integration, I believe in system, and I believe in the holistic and oneness. And when I talk about holistic and oneness, and already it's been presented in the UNFCCC for the last COP meetings, is to talk not only about one planetary, but also one health, which is much more practical, and put it at the negotiation table. Traditional medicine is vis-a-vis, we actually gave it a name because we were comparing it with the modern medicine, which is based on pharmaceuticals and based on the chemicals and others. It has been eroded in our daily behaviors, in our families, in our communities. So when we talk about traditional importance or indigenous traditional medicine importance, if each one of us in the room reflects in the room ourselves, reflects in the beginning how our families have raised up, even in the countries that were focusing on the Western, you will see always it was used. If it was for mental health, for example, with loads of meditation, if it was for the prevention, or it was for promotion, for example, we will always hear, in order to feel healthier, take some honey with hot water. Now, this is considered medicinal, but it's also considered a prevention angle that we need to look. The message of regulating is very critical because that it could be an integrated part of any health services that we are providing for prevention, for promotion of health, for curative, but also for the palliative care. Why I say this? Because I come from a country that has regulated the practitioners and the institutions as part of the health systems for the what we call not only indigenous, but also traditional medicine and what we call the Prophet Islamic medicine. Now, these are, when it is medicine, it's related to the curative care and palliative care. But there are also traditional, what we call remedies and away from the language of medicine to be away from the sickness language and focus on the health. With the triple UNFCCC already in COP28, there has been a very clear declaration respecting the health of the people and the ecosystem. It's respecting the interconnectedness. And we have been building in it on 29 and COP30 also. The World Health Organization has come up with the strategy, and in that strategy, which has been multiple stakeholders engaged, including indigenous people engaged, you will see also that it has been recognized. We are at a time that actually continuously since Rio Convention until now, it has been presented and is now taking its position. Where are we needing to focus is actually to make sure it is part of the nationally determined contributions by the countries. Some countries have regulated it, like mine. Some countries are doing research, like in some of our countries in the region. I remember very well Kuwait until now, they are doing a lot of studies. Saudi Arabia is doing a lot of studies. The same in China, the same in Hong Kong. I have visited these sites and Thailand. Not only the evidence, but bringing it to make sure it is part of the national strategies and part of the reporting to the UNFCCC of what is the degree we have used in terms of working with the indigenous people, bringing their tradition, integrating it, and at the same time bringing solutions from the communities. It is time we bring solutions from the communities, and I'm sure Gokul and I have talked that how can we bring presenters from the communities that have been using it, especially during the conflict areas, to prevent a disease or to actually strengthen the population's health. This comes to the language of investment. Investment is not only the money, but also investment is how we work ethically around the care, the ecology, bringing communities' wisdom scientifically. Since I have talked about scientifically, I have to bring the issue of the AI and the ethics and the climate change. Today, the artificial intelligence is used, and that's why we need to ensure that the algorithm actually bringing the scientific and evidence of the indigenous and the traditional medicine in the AI system so the humanity can utilize the knowledge built and the system that brings to the people's health for collectively and not only one group versus the other. So losing traditional medicine means losing more than just healthcare options. It means we are actually erasing centuries of cultural heritage, a spiritual connection that we rarely speak about, and the ecological wisdom. Hence, very critical, we invest in our human health, not sickness. We treat sickness, but focus on protecting our planet, protecting our people. And I'm not just saying it, blah, blah. We are walking the talk. All of the people in this room are walking the talk. Yesterday, I had a session with women. They are from diverse backgrounds, and all the issues about how can we use the remedies to keep healthier, not to keep sick, to treat sickness, but to keep healthier. And to me, it was like a breath in the fresh air to hearing now people are saying, how can we protect our biodiversity? How can we cultivate our lands in order to produce remedies that will become healthier, but at the same time to protect our global health and people's health? I just want to give these messages. I hope I answered your question, focusing on the ethics angle, systematic knowledge building, but at the same time ensuring the integration through One health in all policies, engagements, and really protecting each one other, holding hands, as I say. And we can do it. We have done it in different countries, especially in different difficult countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Naima. I think you did answer the question. You did not just answer the question, but you answered many of other questions that we in the room and people joining us online have, and that policymakers have, that people have on the ground working on these issues. What I really take from your intervention is that while it is a joint effort and a joint responsibility, there is responsibilities of individual actors, of individual stakeholders that can really move things forward. And I think you did point that out in a couple of instances. So thank you for bringing this to our attention and to our awareness. With that, we would like to stay online and now show you a video contribution that we have received from one of our collaborators. I will please ask you to show this video to us. Okay, as we set up the video, I think we will manage to show it also online and in the room. Gokul, is there anything you would like to add to this video message? Okay.
Share some, share some. Share some.
Great. So I presume you are seeing it online now? Okay.
YPAD Programs Coordinator. YPAD is young.
Can online participants hear it? Because we cannot hear it here in the room.
Yes, we heard it briefly online.
Ah, you did? Okay. So I think it's only us in the room that cannot.
Professionals for agricultural development, and I'm also the UNFCCC Youth Caucus member. I'm a farmer of medicinal plants, and I'm based in Uganda. Can you imagine, at the age of 31, I have actually never been admitted to any hospital. Where is the secret? The medicinal plants that I'm using.
Just like millions of people around the world, medicinal plants are a source of more than just natural remedies. They are a form of wealth, not because they actually face billions of money for me, but I believe a healthy person is a wealthy one. For millions of young people across the world, these plants are actually a source of health care, cultural identity, traditional knowledge, and livelihoods and biodiversity. Many of us, especially from rural communities and the indigenous communities, have relied on these plants for generations. However, land degradation, deforestation, and unsustainable land use, as well as climate change and biodiversity loss, are threatening medicinal species at a very alarming rate. Just imagine where you live. How many medicinal plants can you even be able to see? As the ecosystems degrade, many valuable medicinal plants definitely disappear. For young people, this matters because healthy land is directly linked to our future. The loss of medicinal plant diversity means the loss of opportunities for research, innovation, green entrepreneurship, sustainable livelihoods, and community well-being. This is why youth voices must be meaningfully included in policy making. Young people are not actually future leaders. We are actually championing change now. This is through platforms and networks like YPAD, where I serve. Can you imagine, in my community, actually people call me the village doctor? Not because I qualify, but because I can give freely these medicinal plants that I grow, sometimes without investing in any money. As young people, we bring innovation, local solutions, and long-term perspectives that are essential for sustainable land management. Youth, especially as from the rural communities and the indigenous people, should have meaningful participation in decision-making processes, both at our local community level and global negotiations. Investing in land restoration is investing in medicinal plant diversity. And when you invest in medicinal plant diversity, you are investing in human health, biodiversity, resilience, livelihoods, and future generations. The future of medicinal plants depends on healthy land, and the future of a healthy land depends on inclusive policies that listen to empower the young people.
Unregulated and excessive use of medicinal plants can turn out disastrous. You always need to use them with caution, proper knowledge, and guidance. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. That was so nice to see, really, the from the ground message. Very much appreciated. With that, we are going to now move back to the room with Manu, who is going to give us some insight into indigenous communities and how they protect medicinal knowledge for the next generation. So the question to you is, indigenous communities have protected medicinal knowledge for generations. Why is it that indigenous knowledge is essential for both health resilience and climate adaptation?
Thank you so much. Is it on? Yeah, it's on. Thank you so much for this wonderful panel, and also listening from other colleagues gives me more inspiration as well. Indigenous knowledge is essential for both health, resilience, and climate adaptation because it is deeply rooted in the cultural, ecological, and spiritual relationship with the environment which we have always lived in. And for us, knowledge is dynamic, somehow holistic as well, and provide locally appropriate strategies for coping with climate change. We all know the impact of climate change right now within the different areas of the world. And the impact is really in a way that we must address the issue, and it is critical for us. So emphasizing the balance between human and also natural world, offering effective climate solutions and sustainable practices is what we have been promoting as Indigenous people in our different sociocultural regions and ecosystems. And so for us, it is a unique understanding of ecological systems and needs to be adapted to the realities of these changes that we undergo today and that we face, and also fostering healthy and resilient ecosystems. So, for example, within communities, what we are trying to do right now through projects and programs is putting in place a community platform where we have elders and also the younger generations. I heard you talking about the youth not even being interested in these areas of topic, but trying to make sure that we bring them into these processes and make them understand the value of them, understanding how to use these medicinal plants, how to also keep it for the future generation. So what we have put like projects is documenting this knowledge, making sure that it is transmitted to the younger people and how it is being used as well, because not just telling them that this is the plant, but how can you use this plant to cure the different diseases and issues that we face on daily basis. Coming from a pastoralist community, we do have also our animals that we need to protect and using these medicinal plants to also treat. So it's not just the human, but also our cattle that we rear, which define us as well. So listening to our brother from Uganda, where he's saying that for 30-something years he has not been to the hospital, it's amazing. But today we see that because we are now neglecting this knowledge and these practices, we are now being dependent of these science, new modern ways of treating ourselves, and that is a problem to our own system and also the way of life which our ancestors have been living for centuries without having any challenge. I would also like to emphasize on the aspect of making sure this knowledge is documented and also preserved. And as Indigenous people, we are promoting and making sure that our traditional knowledge is taken into account. But again, the free, prior, and informed consent should be one of the key areas of focus, because we must respect the knowledge of these people, the right holders, and how this knowledge is being used. We see now the advent of new technologies, and this is also an impact to our traditional medicine and traditional knowledge. So how do we make sure this balance is there, and making sure that things are not disappearing from what we already know and how we use it. So some of the key recommendations I would like to put forward as well is that we need to strengthen recognition of indigenous knowledge in adaptation and health policies, because this will encourage parties, to incorporate this knowledge system into their national adaptation plans, and also in the NDCs, for example, and making sure that health adaptation strategies are really put in place and respected. Another thing I would want to recommend is that we should ensure the full and effective participation of indigenous people within those spaces, and making sure that we increase youth, elders, women as well, traditional healers in the decision making when we talk of climate issues and climate processes. One of the things we should also emphasize on is protecting indigenous territories and biocultural diversity. Is very, very important for us, and making sure that we promote, we ensure we respect and promote the land tenure, our territorial rights, and also recognizing the healthy ecosystem, which for us is a key to resilience, and making sure that traditional health systems are respected. So I already talked about documenting the plans, the traditional plan, and how they are used. I will not come back to that, but it's very important to share these best practices with other communities and other regions, for them to also put in place such program, because we have seen the benefit of that. Because at first we realized the youth were not interested and the elders are dying. So how do we make sure, before all of them are gone, how do we make sure we keep this knowledge and it is being transferred from one generation to the other? Being mindful that our traditions are always oral, but now we are trying to document so that the future generations would have something to have and to use. We also will maybe try to support indigenous-led adaptation and health initiatives, because it's very important. Prioritizing community-driven initiatives, because these issues are from the grassroots, and we cannot have decisions at international level when the grassroots is not included in the process. So we must ensure that there is food sovereignty, medicinal plants are inclusive. We have also water security that we need to take into account, and also making sure that the healthcare systems are established in a way that will impact and reduce the impact of climate change within communities. So basically, that is what I may share, but I may come back if there are other questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this very important message. Also, it feels like you speak more from the ground, and that message to find and keep the balance between the human and the natural, and not see it as a distinction, is the way for us to learn and work together. I really liked also how you highlighted full and effective participation of Indigenous communities, how you raised some concerns that I now see as a red thread. Also, AI was mentioned and technologies were mentioned that we can use very effectively and that can help us, but it also has its own dangers. So it's important to talk about them, to consider them, and to also make some of these questions essential question in the policy discussions, not just on the ground. So thank you for bringing that message. We are now going to turn again online, and I will invite Dr. Mana Sherbini to answer some of the questions related to the medical and public health perspective. The question to you will be, from a medical and public health perspective, why should climate change impacts on medicinal plants concern the health community?
Thank you so much, and greetings of peace, everyone. First, I would like to speak from a hopeful narrative about the role of climate-resilient medicinal plants in strengthening climate adaptation, safeguarding traditional medicine, and supporting ecosystem resilience. And in particular, I would like also to shed light on the idea of weeds, or the notion that some of the plant species we have historically been overlooking, marginalizing, and thought to eliminate are in fact important lessons for adaptation in a changing climate. For example, I would like to speak about Persillon, or in a scientific name, Portulacia oryceria, which is a remarkable species that embody this principle. And I think it's represented in a Goverdan app that Google has developed, which is an amazing digital library of biodiverse species. The insights I would like to speak from also is scientific research published in March 2026 by Johnson and Steffel, the authors who concluded that implementation of a climate resilient future will require the identification of 36 strategies. Among them, 20 are already undergoing and being implemented with their policies. And this can give us a hopeful narrative that the pathway to mitigation is already underway. And the key to cooling the planet in a quick way is planting trees and not emission reduction. And as we all know, humanity has removed approximately half of the global biomass over recorded history, and with it, a significant portion of the biological capacity that underpins ecological resilience and adaptive potential. Yet, the restoration of vegetation is not a new insight. As we know from across all cultures and knowledge systems, they have recognized the ecological and social value of planting trees. Even in the Islamic perspective, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught that if a person plants a tree or sows seeds, a human or a bird or an animal benefit from it, it is counted as an ongoing charity or a sadaqah. And this brings us to the unlikely but highly instructive group of plants, which are weeds. And the phrase "we weeds" that I'm using will provide a useful lens through which to examine resilience in a changing climate. For centuries, agriculture has sought to maximize yields by excluding competing plants. Especially during the 20th century, this effort has been intensified through herbicides and increasingly sophisticated weed management technologies. Yet, paradoxically, these sustained eradication efforts created powerful evolutionary selection pressures, and the species capable of surviving heat, drought, and nutrient limitation with repeated chemical exposures have persisted and reproduced. In these evolutionary terms, many of the weeds are among the most successful adapters in agricultural history. And why are we speaking of weeds in particular? Because Persillon or Portulacia oryceria, they have been recognized in all traditional medicine practices, like traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, the Middle Eastern region, and even the European herbal traditions. Persillon is the only terrestrial plant which contains fish oil, and it is nutrient dense and contain also abundant antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and bioactive compounds. Ecologically, they are also remarkable that they resist droughts, and they are heat resilient and physiologically stable, and they are capable of producing up to 200,000 seeds per plant, where the seeds remain viable for decades. And these characteristics led the agriculture to classify Persillon as a weed, and they are now investigating its therapeutic value as well in many of the chronic diseases. Equally important, traditional medicine preserved the knowledge not only of the plant itself, but it's also how to appropriately use it. Persillon contain high oxalate levels, and traditional food systems required to combine it with yogurt or other complementary ingredients to recommend how a nutritionally balanced and safe consumption can be. As we can see, traditional medicine is not only a repository of therapeutic knowledge, but also a repository of ecological knowledge about resilient species and their sustainable use. And so I would like to focus here on the central lesson that when we say we weeds, it just reminds us that many species historically dismissed as weeds, they actually possess traits that may be increasingly valuable under future climate conditions, and that traditional medicine preserved these knowledge because it evaluated them through a broader framework encompassing health, ecology, nutrition, and resilience. And so all of this can encompass the future narrative that when climate risks intensify, adaptive strategies can be significant from taking lessons from nature and even the knowledge systems that safeguarded these traditions for many generations. Thank you so much, and I wonder if I mentioned everything from a scientific perspective, from an ecological perspective, and from a public health perspective. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Mona, for highlighting the importance of research and what research can do to contribute to protecting the plants that we already have and to protect them for the future generations to come. I think it's such an important message too. And what the other point that I really take is following individual plants and how they evolve to understand better how climate affects these specific plant species. I just want to highlight that to everyone that we are close to having to leave the room. So I will still invite the next speaker to Mr. Jefferson to answer the last question, and then we will need to wrap up. So the question to you, Mr. Jefferson, you're bringing a national perspective. What are the challenges that traditional medicine practitioners and indigenous communities face in Liberia today?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And, thank you to all the previous speakers. Because of time, let me just quickly state that the greatest challenges faced by traditional healers in Liberia is Eurocentric environmental policies, which are basically concentrated on scientific ideologies. Indigenous knowledge is sidelined. All right, so the traditional healers, for example, in Liberia during our crisis of Ebola, trust me, traditional healers were threatened by the government that should they get involved with treating a patient that is infected by the Ebola virus, that healer should be arrested. So one of the speakers spoke of respect, meaningful engagement, and how do we do preservation. The gentleman that spoke from Uganda, I visited Uganda, from where we developed interest in Liberia to say, no, we need to adapt these best practices. We have so many concessions in our countries. Those concessionaires are not considering the extinction of traditional medicinal trees that are planted in those concession areas. So as they continue, their interest is in their businesses, and there are no national policies to incorporate indigenous knowledge into concession agreements. So there is going to be critical issues of traditional medicine very shortly in Liberia. So what we have tried to do is, there is a women organization in Liberia called the Liberia Rural Women Organization for Climate Action. They have developed a proposal. I serve them as a national consultant. With the idea from Uganda, I also advise them to do proposal and knock on doors of development partners to say there is a need for us to have a medicinal farm in Liberia. Because with the level of concessionary in this country, if we're not careful, in masses, we're not going to have traditional medicinal trees, but they are all being destroyed. So these are critical challenges we are facing. They are not formally incorporated into the national health system. It's another issue. And this is not unique to Liberia. In these developed countries, you don't have these as incorporated into. So it's a critical issue for us to address. So as all said, my point is we need to strengthen the capacity of traditional healers, and we need to incorporate traditional knowledge into climate policies that will help to support whatever there is, because ideas are being exchanged, trees are all getting missing, and pretty soon, like the other speakers have said, the future generation is going to be lost from what traditional healers are doing at this point in time. So because of time, let me just summarize that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing that national perspective. And yes, I see Christina Romanelli clapping. I think you do deserve the clap. All of you deserve it. I do take your message on how national policies are important for understanding traditional medicine and how regulation is not the single source of solution. It needs to be a joint venture in considering the perspective of the traditional healers and those that are delivering these medicines that the communities rely on. As a closing, I would like to ask you one last question, and I would really appreciate if you kept your answer brief, just one sentence. If you could recommend one concrete action to governments, international organizations, or climate negotiators right now to accelerate protection of traditional medicine systems from climate impacts, what would this be? And if you have, I know there is many solutions, but if you have the single most important one that you could highlight, I would like to ask you that, and we can go in order of intervention. So I would start with Christina.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to keep it very brief. My recommendation would be simple. Invest in prevention at source and ensure that initiatives are rights-based. So protect and restore the ecosystems that sustain health, that support Indigenous stewardship, and integrate biodiversity and health into climate adaptation planning. When we do that, we're not only reducing climate risks, we're strengthening resilience, protecting biocultural diversity, knowledge systems, and supporting health for all. So
thank you, Christina. The next one is Gokul from the room.
So I would like to recommend is that just talk to each other, work on the collaborative efforts, and also recognize the key partners who are those people, get them on board, get them to the table, and make sure that they are properly understood. And properly understanding is the key for traditional medicine, because that is where the connection is there. Like, it is a network of things that we need to understand properly. So that
Thank
is
you,
one thing.
Gokul. Now we turn to Dr. Naima.
Thank you very much. All very, very, very interesting and exciting sessions. My key message is to ensure working from now that it is part of nationally contributing determinants, national indices, I'm sorry,
nationally determined
nationally
contributions.
determined
You got this.
contribution, because that's the way of measurements, and that's where we can really put it in the strategies, policies, and directions of the countries. Definitely, I'm a believer of One Health. I'm a believer in One Health in all policies. To explain it, it doesn't mean Ministry of Health. It's at higher level, and it's everyone's engagement that health is in every sector where Indigenous traditional medicine is integrated. So yes, nationally determined contributions are critical for me, because it will be part of a stock taking by the countries to report back to UNFCCC. Thank you.
Thank you, Naima. Manu from the room.
Just ensuring that the free and informed consent of Indigenous people is taken into account as right holders, and also ensuring that there is transmission of knowledge from the older generation to the younger generations, since they are the future of tomorrow, and making sure these people are all on the decision-making table. Thank you.
Then you all really summarized the essence of your messages. I really appreciate that. Dr. Mona?
Yes, I would like to recommend a climate-smart agroforestry, which integrates medicinal plants with trees, diversified agricultural systems, and all of this will enrich the livelihood for resilience and advanced adaptation. And also an important message to start recognizing the undervalued medicinal plants, which is already known in traditional medical practices, because this can support adaptation in a climate change future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we close with Mr. Jefferson.
Jeff,
Can
can
you
you hear us? Can you unmute?
Are you still with us?
Hi, Jeff. Can you hear us?
Yes, it might be internet issues. I would like to just quickly highlight also the organization that I represent. So I'm the coordinator of the Traditional, Complementary, and Integrative Healthcare Coalition. And we are an international organization that is representing over 300 organizations that have signed our call to action, which is the TCH Declaration. And we do believe that these conversations that are happening in the policy spaces are necessarily reliant on those that are delivering our healthcare, that are on the ground. And our role is really to highlight that and make it possible. So our first step is advocacy, and if I could say a word, this is advocacy. We have also released recently an Indigenous traditional medicine and healing practices position paper where we highlight these issues, and we do want to make these voices heard in the policy spaces also on climate change. I would, if Dr. Mr. Jeffrey, you're here with us, okay. If you could share with us your closing sentence, that would be appreciated.
The WHO representative at this meeting have already said it in the global entirety. We need to ensure that national policies incorporate traditional knowledge. We need to lay emphasis on international partners who are supporting health issues in our respective countries should insist that recognition be given to these traditional efforts. These, like all of us have said, these are culturally related, have existed for years to years. And so we need to insist that there must be continuity. So how can that happen? These developed countries, we need to support. There is the need for critical support. Take, for example, at the moment, only one representative of this organization, who is Gaku, that is funded by the global community. I don't even know how he can manage to do all the running around on behalf of all of us as countries struggling to make sure that our culture is retained and maintained. So we need to consider this very seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for closing with that very strong message. And I would like to thank all of our speakers for their valuable insight and perspectives. I have many, many words that I have jotted into my notebook. And if there is something that resonates, and the common threads along all of you is, I think the main word would be respect, collaboration, and lived healthcare. I would like to close with that. We really highlighted the close connection between climate change, biodiversity, traditional medicine, community health, and how we lead the way forward to protecting that all together between institutions and stakeholders. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining in. Thank you.
Thank you, Gukal, for keeping up the spirit.
Thank you.
Working hard, all of you.
Thank you, Goku. Thank you.
Bye, Christina.
Thanks to all of us.
Bye. Great to see you all. Thank you all.